Welcome everyone. In today's lecture, we will be learning two acts. The first one is the Mental Health Act 1987 and the latest amendment that is being given to the Mental Health Act 1987, that is Mental Health Care Act 2017. I am Dr. Sanil Kumar MC, working as professor and head of the Department of Forensic Medicine at Government Homeopathic Medical College, Kozhikode. The Mental Health Care Act, which was enacted in 1987, is an act to consolidate and amend the law relating to treatment and care of mentally ill persons and to make better provisions with respect to their property and affairs and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. So the Mental Health Care Act was done to make a law relating to the treatment and care of mentally ill persons. Before Mental Health Act 1987, there was an act called Indian Lunacy Act, which was enacted in 1912, and the main difference is that Mental Health Care Act 1987 gave was the term asylum was renamed as psychiatric hospital. The term lunatic was renamed as mentally ill person, and the term criminal lunatic was renamed as mentally ill prisoner. The Mental Health Care Act was divided into 10 chapters and a total of 28 sections was there. The Mental Health Care Act came into effect only in, even though it was passed in 1987, the Mental Health Act came only into effect in April 1993 in all the states and union territories of the Union of India. The main objectives of the Act are to regulate the admission of mentally ill patient to a psychiatric hospital or a psychiatric nursing home and how to protect his rights while he is under detention. The next objective of the Act is to prevent harm to himself and the society by the mentally ill person, and to protect citizens being detained in psychiatric hospitals without sufficient cause. Then to fix liability for maintenance charges of mentally ill patient when he is admitted to the hospital or nursing home, to provide facilities to establish guardianship or custody of the mentally ill patient and management of his property, to establish central and state authority for mental health services, to provide licensing and control of psychiatric hospitals by the state government, and to ensure legal aid to the mentally ill person at state expenses in certain particular cases. Some important provisions that are there in Mental Health Act 1987 include: a mentally ill person is a person who is in need of treatment by any reason of mental disorder, and the state and central government have to establish a mental health authority to regulate the mental health services. The psychiatric hospital or psychiatric nursing home can only be established after obtaining license from this mental health authority, and this should be renewed every 5 years. And there should also be facilities for outdoor as treatment for mental ill patients also in the psychiatric hospital or nursing home. And for every psychiatric hospital or nursing home, the government should appoint visitors who should visit the psychiatric hospital or nursing home every month, and they should examine all the patients. And it also provides guidelines and procedure for admission, detention, and discharge of a mentally unsound person. And if a mentally ill person is received or retained in a psychiatric hospital against the provision of Mental Health Act 1987, then the punishment is imprisonment up to 2 years and fine. And there is also provision for leave of absence of an insane person, and it also provides for judicial inquisition by district court for appointment of guardian for custody of a mentally ill person and management of his property. It also provides for protection of human rights of mentally ill person, and it provides for legal aid to the mentally ill persons at state expense in certain cases. The main component of Mental Health Act 1987 is the restoration of a mentally ill person in a psychiatric hospital or nursing home, and about the discharge formalities of a mentally ill person. So restraint of a mentally ill person may be immediate, or he can be admitted to a psychiatric hospital. For immediate admission, the mentally incapacitated person or mentally ill person who is dangerous to self or society, or if he is suffering from delirium, he should be immediately restrained. And he can be put under restraint anywhere, either with or without the consent of the lawful guardian. And this insane person or mentally ill person can be detained till the time the danger lasts. That is about immediate restraint. Then about admission to psychiatric hospital. So if the lawful guardian is unable to keep him under control, or if there is no guardian at all, then the state is legally justified to take charge of the mentally ill person and keep him under restraint in a psychiatric hospital or a nursing home for his own safety as well as the safety of others. And he can be admitted as a voluntary patient, admitted on application by relatives or friends, application on reception order on petition by a magistrate, wandering and dangerous or cruelly treated mentally ill persons also can be admitted. The mentally ill prisoners can be admitted, and also escaped mentally ill. We'll be dealing with one by one. For a voluntary patient, any person who is 18 years of age may apply in writing to the in charge of a mental hospital for his admission for treatment. And the person in charge of the mental hospital can, after necessary enquiry, admit him as a boarder with the consent of the visitors of the hospital. And this patient can leave the hospital upon giving 24 hours notice in writing to the in charge of the hospital. So any person who is 18 years of age may apply in writing to the in charge of the mental hospital for his admission for treatment. Next is admission on application by relatives or friends. So in case the patient cannot express his voluntary willingness for admission as a voluntary patient, or if he is below 18 years, then the relatives or friends can make an application along with 2 medical certificates for admission to a mental hospital. If the procedure is clear, then the patient can be admitted for up to 90 days. And sometimes it can occur like that the application for admission is not done without is not having 2 medical certificates. Then the officer in charge of the mental hospital can get the patient examined by 2 doctors of the hospital. Now about the admission on reservation order on petition. So the relatives or friends have to submit a petition in prescribed form, that is form number 1, that is obtained from the superintendent of mental hospital, and the petition should be submitted before an authorized magistrate along with 2 medical certificates issued in form number 3. And these 2 medical certificate, one should be from a gazetted officer, second can be from a private practitioner or a registered medical practitioner. And this petition should be submitted within 10 days of medical examination. So from the date of examination or date of issue of medical certificate in form number 3, the patient should be submitted within 10 days of medical examination, and a medical certificate for fitness of travel is also needed. And if the magistrate is satisfied about the patient's condition, he issues an order in the form number 2 for reception of the mentally ill person into a mental hospital. So a reception order has a validity of about 30 days. Next, about admission of wandering, dangerous, or cruelly or ill-treated mental ill persons. So any wandering or dangerous mentally ill person may be arrested by police, and they may be produced before a magistrate, and this magistrate can place him under observation of the medical officer. And if he is satisfied that he is suffering from mental illness, he can be put him under the care of relatives or friends, or can issue, if there is no friends or relatives to take care of him, can issue a reception order for admission to mental hospital. Or any police officer or any person can complain to the magistrate that a mentally ill is not kept under proper care and control, or is being cruelly neglected by the relatives. Then the magistrate has to do an inquiry, and after this inquiry he can order for proper care and treatment of the mentally ill by the relatives. And if there is no guardian, he can order for admission of this patient. And wandering, dangerous, the commissioner of police the can exercise the powers of a magistrate while referring to wandering, dangerous, or cruelly ill treated mentally ill, and can order admission. Then about mentally ill prisoner, a person who is committing crime as mentally ill person or become mentally ill while undergoing sentence in jail can be ordered to be admitted in the mental hospital by the magistrate after receiving the medical certificates. Escaped mentally ill who escaped from a mental hospital can be recaptured by the police officer, hospital staff, or any person authorized by the hospital for it, and can be readmitted straight away without producing in front of the magistrate. And discharge of the insane person. A voluntary patient who is gaining admission to a psychiatric hospital voluntarily can be discharged on the request, self-request, or giving 24 hours prior notice in writing to the in charge of the hospital. If the in charge of the hospital is convinced that the patient is fit, he can discharge the voluntary patient. And if he is admitted on application or petition by the relatives, then in reference to the one who has admitted on application or petition, the relatives or friends for discharge have to apply in writing to the concerned magistrate, who, if he is satisfied that the patient is not dangerous or unfit, the magistrate may order discharge. The officer in charge of mental hospital can discharge any patient on the recommendations of 2 doctors of the hospital. And if he is admitted as wandering, dangerous, mentally ill, the patient, the relatives or friends can make an application that they will take proper care of the patient. Then the in charge medical officer will send this application to the magistrate, who will order discharge of the wandering or dangerous mentally ill person. Then about mentally ill prisoner, he is discharged only on specific order of the magistrate, and he is then sent to jail to complete his term of punishment. Now about Mental Health Care Act 2017, it has 16 sections. The first one is preliminary section, second is mental illness and capacity to make mental health care and treatment decisions, third is advanced directive, 4 is NR or nominated representative, and fifth is rights of persons with mental illness, duties of appropriate government. 7. Central Mental Health Authority. 8. State Mental Health Authority. 9. Finances, Accounts and Audit. 10. Mental Health Establishment. 11. Mental Health Review Boards. 12. Admission, Treatment and Discharge. 13. Responsibilities of other agencies. 14. Restriction to discharge functions by professionals. 15. Offences and penalties. And lastly, miscellaneous. The Mental Health Care Bill 2013 was introduced in the Rajya Sabha by Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad on 19th August 2013. So, introduction of bill, the rate of introduction of the Mental Health Care Bill was 19th August 2013, and it was passed by the Conference Committee on 20th November 2013, and this was enacted and passed by Rajya Sabha on 30th March 2017 and enacted and passed by Lok Sabha in 27th March 2017, and this act was commenced on 7th July 2018. The term mental illness was defined in the section 2 of Mental Health Care Act 2017 as mental illness indicates a substantial disorder of thinking, mood, perception, orientation, or thought that grossly damages the judgment, behavior, capacity to recognize reality, or ability to meet the usual requirements of life. Mental condition associated with degradation of alcohol and drugs, but does not constitute mental barrier, which is a condition of arrested or inadequate development of mind of a person, particularly characterized by subnormality of knowledge. So, a comprehensive definition of mental illness was given in the section 2 of Mental Health Care Act 2017. So, as already said, the Mental Health Care Act 2017 is split into 16 chapters, which will be elaborated as below. And in chapter 1, it comprises the definitions and terms that are asserted in the Act. And in this chapter, mental health gets a brand new and elaborative definition. And variation from the Mental Health Act 1987 is that the Mental Health Care Act 2017 defines or involves postgraduate Ayush doctors also as mental health professionals. In Chapter 2, this covers mental illness and the capacity to make mental health care and treatment decisions without any prejudice. And it also includes how mental health should be determined, and also the capacity to make mental health care and treatment decisions. The third chapter deals with advanced directives and manner of making advanced directives and also maintaining advanced directive and its power, review and liability allocated to it. Chapter 4 lays down the guidelines for determining a nominated representative and appointment and revocation of nominated representative and the duties of nominated representative. Chapter 5 consists of various rights that are conferred to a mental ill person. Section 18 means right to access mental health care. Section 19 right to community living. Section 20 right to protection from cruel and degrading treatment, inhuman degrading treatment. Section 21 right to equality and non-discrimination. Section 22 right to information. Section 23 right to confidentiality. Section 24 restriction on the release of information with respect to right to access medical records. Section 25 right to personal contacts and communication. Section 26 right to legal aid. Section 6 gives direction to the government to execute the mental health care program. Then it also promotes mental health and preventive programs. Chapter 7 gives provisions for creating central mental health authority, including establishment, composition, and duties of Central Mental Health Authority. Chapter 8 gives provisions of creating the State Mental Health Authority, and it also covers establishment, composition, and duties of State Mental Health Authority. Chapter 9 comprises finance, accounts, and audit, accounts, audit, and annual reports by the Central and State Mental Health Authority. Chapter 10 includes mental health care establishments. Chapter 11 includes development of mental health review boards and the registration, audit, inspection, and inquiry of mental health review boards. And Chapter 12 deals with admission, treatment, and discharge of mentally ill. Chapter 13 guarantees guidelines in terms of duties of police officers concerning a mentally ill person. Chapter 14 restricts unauthorized duty and medication. Chapter 15 deals with penalty and punishment, and last chapter, that is 16, talks about the power of the central government to issue regulations. Now we will learn what are the major provisions that are there in Mental Health Care Act 2017. So a new definition for mental illness was given. So earlier mental illness was defined as any mental disorder and seldom as mental retardation, but the new act provides a broader definition which was stated earlier. Then about the various rights of the person with mental illness. Every person has a right to obtain mental health care and its treatment from mental health services which are run by or financed by the appropriate government, and there is a right to live with dignity that is provided for every person with mental illness. No discrimination of any on any basis like gender, sex, religion, culture, sexual orientation, caste, social class, disability, and political belief should be done against mentally ill people. Rights of confidentiality as for mental health treatment, mental health care, and physical health care to mentally ill people. And it forbids the usage of the release of a photograph or any such matter related to a mentally ill person in the media without the acquiescence of without the permission of the person, and also right of picking the person who will be answerable for making decisions with the view to the treatment, his admission into hospital, etc. So another major provision that was given was for the persons with mental illness will have also the right to protection from barbaric or demeaning treatment, and free treatment should be provided for the person with mental illness if they are homeless and fall below poverty line, and if even if they don't own a below poverty line card. Third provision is about advance directives. So a person with mental illness shall have the right to make an advance directive that states how he or she wants to be treated for the illness and who his or her nominated representative shall be. And this advance directive should be certified by a medical practitioner, or it should be registered with the mental health board. Then about mental health authority, the bill provides power to the government, state as well as central government to set up central mental health authority at national level as well as state mental health authority in the state level. And every mental health practitioner and mental health institute, including nurses, clinical psychologists, also psychiatric social workers, also will be compelled to be registered with this authority. And the mental health authorities can command to register, supervise, and manage a register of mental health professionals and establishments, then to generate quality and service provision norms for such establishments, train law enforcement administrators and mental health experts on the outlines of the Act, receive complaints about deficiencies in the provisions of the services, and also advise the government upon matters representing mental health. The next provision is for mental health treatment, and this bill also specifies the process and procedure to be followed for admission, treatment, and discharge of the mentally ill individuals. and a medical practitioner or a mental health professional shall not be held responsible for any unforeseen outcomes on following a valid advance directive. So if a valid advance directive was there and it is made by a mentally ill person, then a medical practitioner or mental health professional shall not be held liable for any unforeseen outcomes. Another major provision is decriminalization of suicide as provided in the section 115 of Mental Health Care Act, notwithstanding anything contained in section 309 of IPC. Any person who attempts to commit suicide shall be presumed, unless proved otherwise, to have severe stress and shall not be tried and punished under the state code, that is section 309 IPC. The appropriate government shall have a duty to provide care, treatment, and rehabilitation to a person who, having severe stress and who attempted to commit suicide, to reduce the risk of recurrence of attempt to commit suicide. Then, with this milestone judgment, which annulled or decriminalized section 309 IPC, state that any person attempting to perform suicide shall be punished with simple imprisonment, which may prolong to 1 year. Next is about abolishment of the barbarous treatment, and the Mental Health Care Act affirms that a person with mental illness shall not be subjected to ECT therapy without the application of muscle relaxants and anesthesia, and electroconvulsive therapy for minors is prohibited, and chaining in any manner or method is banned. And we are coming to the end of this session, and the topic discussed include Mental Health Care Act 1987 and Mental Health Act 1987 and Mental Health Care Act 2017. Thank you.